Dean gave us his take on it the other day from the New York Film Festival, and Jerry, I'm sure you and I have had a chance to see it now.
Right. Yeah.
This was one of the biggies, one of the first big fall films that we're looking forward to. So did it meet expectations for you, Jerry?
I don't think this is a disappointment. I think this is a hard film, and I mean that in the best possible way. That as many people went to go see it as did, I think is incredible. I think it's I think this owes more to Hard 8 and Punch Drunk Love than to his other films. I think it's that kind of film. I think Joaquin Phoenix gives the performance of his life. I think this, and I was looking through his resume last night, and there are a lot of great performances there. I don't think anyone's played anyone quite this good, just quite this off the wall, but there's something very lovable about him almost. I think the first 20 minutes are brilliant. I think that it's. I think if I have a problem with the film, it's just that I would have ended it at a different place than it ends. And I thought
where would you have ended it?
I would have ended it when he rides off on the motorcycle.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And I would have given the film 10 out of 10. Because I think everything that happens is important. The stuff that happens afterwards is important. Especially, I think the revelation of the film may be Amy Adams, who's basically playing like Marie Antoinette crossed with Anne Romney. And she is just, when she reveals herself to who she really is, that scene in the bathroom.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God! You didn't tell us about that, Dean. Thank you for not telling us about that. Yeah. But
I wanted you to discover that for yourself.
No, that was a scene for the ages. You were enchanted, and now you're doing this. Oh my God, this is awesome. But I thought the film. I think it's a great film. I have to watch it again, and I want to watch it again because I want to go see it in 70 millimeter. I definitely want to see it again. I just think it's a film that's perfect for where we live now. It has. If you walk into I think you said this too. If you walk into thinking this is about Scientology, you would be. That's foolish. It's not. It's about something far bigger.
Scientology is just sort of a plot point or a plot device.
This is about like the emptiness of, in one sense, about the emptiness of these people that larger than life people, and we realize they're like phonies. But it's also, this is how do I say this? A love story between the two leads. They love each other.
Yeah, they do.
They really do. They really do love each other. Freddie. I think Lancaster is the only person that Freddie has ever really been truly interested in.
With. Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of metaphors in the film. There's a lot of awesome symbolism in the film. I just want to watch it a couple more times, but I have no problem with it. But I would have ended it differently just because I thought, and I know that's a weird thing to say, I just thought that would have been the perfect scene to end it with.
I think that if it had ended there, personally, I think that if it ended there, I would have been dissatisfied.
Okay.
Yeah, I know that it looks like a good ending because it's big and epic and it looks perfect, but I kind of get I would have been disappointed because I kind of get tired of those endings that just have somebody going off into the distance and then the movie ends. I liked that they had the sort of epilogue sort of thing with his visit to Britain.
No, it's an interesting thing. I mean,
and that last moment with Philip Seymour Hoffman, where he sings "Slow Boat to China," is just
that was
stunning.
Just, oh my God! But the reason I say that, though, Dean, the reason I say that is because in many ways, and I mean, we talk about it. You talk about this. There will be blood. There's that Kubrick influence, and there's another point, Jamie. While watching the movie, I was like, yeah, the Kubrick series. That may be the thing that you basically gave our show like 10 more years. I don't mean that sarcastically. I was just thinking about it because I'm watching.
So thanks a lot, Jamie. Thanks a lot for drawing this out for another 10 years. How dare you?
I think it's great. No, it's awesome. No, because it gave us so much life. Because you see the influence, especially in the last two Paul Thomas Anderson films alone. But the reason I thought it would end there is because he's like Alex in A Clockwork Orange. He can't be changed. He can't be cured.
Well, there is a cure for what ails Freddie Quell, and that is finding a connection, a connection. Preferable for him, it's a female connection.
Right.
He wants to find a nice warm, snatch. So that's what he wants.
Yeah, well, you're right. But you're right.
That should have been the tagline on the poster. I mean, that would have been great.
No, but it's like the scenes on the beach where he's doing it on the beach, and I was like, my God, you mean all this time I've been doing it wrong? Because his posture and everything. I'm like, I'm doing it wrong. I mean, my God.
Well, here are my thoughts on it.
Okay, go.
I agree with you. I think that both of those characters, I think the movie itself is kind of about the need to connect. And I think that, yes, you could say that a connection of sorts would kind of cure Freddie Quell of a lot of his anxieties. But at the same time, I think it comes to a point where they both kind of accept the fate that he isn't that type of person, at least not at that point of his life. He's a wanderer. He's a sailor.
Right.
That's where he is. I don't know that he'll ever find his place in society. I think that he's doomed, if that's the right word, doomed or blessed to constantly be out there searching. I don't think, personally, I was let down by it. There's so much that I love about it, but I didn't think there was a coherency of theme. I thought it wasn't as fleshed out as something like There Will Be Blood. There was something very something very iffy and kind of unformed about the whole movement, the cause.
Like sort of sketchy, kind of. And I mean sketchy in the sense of like a sketch. It was kind of.
Yeah, not fleshed out.
I mean,
not fleshed out. And plus, and Freddie's arc. I think when you say that you wish it would have ended at a certain place, it seems like the beat that it does end in, you kind of walk out questioning, did Paul Thomas Anderson know what the movie was ultimately about?
I don't think he did.
I disagree with you guys. I disagree.
Well, if I can actually get my point across.
Yeah.
I mean, there are those themes running through it, but I think he lost his footing towards the end. And I think it makes sense that he drove away and disappeared because that's what Amy Adams planted in his head early on. Once you find that place that you want and you're ready for it, keep going. Like, go there to that place.
Right.
And I think that whatever he got out of the training that Philip Seymour Hoffman, the conditioning that he gave him, really speaks through that scene where he knocks on the door and talks to the mother of the girl that he's obsessed with, because before he would have blown his top.
Right.
And it's that exercise where the other guy's insulting him. Don't react. Whatever you do, don't react. That part of the conditioning process, and that came through. That paid off. So you can't say that what the cause is, even if it's phony, it did give him something. It was beneficial in some way to him. I like that. Another thing I really liked about it was you're not going to find two more unique performances than Joaquin and Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Right.
Joaquin plays it as kind of a hunchback.
Yeah.
His performance is entirely about the physicality of it.
That sort of weird sideways walk and
wearing the pants all the way up to his gut.
At times he looks like a hunchback alfalfa. I mean, he
does. That's good.
It's such an odd performance. And then Philip Seymour Hoffman is all about, for me, the voice. I've never been so aware of his speaking voice than I am in this movie. It's very, very commanding, comforting, authoritative. There's something so mellifluous about the voice of Hoffman in this movie, and I love so much about it. There's just something concrete that's missing there for me. I think the movie. This was my observation of it. The first thing I walked out last night. I think and I wrote about this, for both better and worse, I think the movie mirrors its two lead characters. You know, it's kind of enigmatic and fascinating, like Hoffman's character in places. But at its worst, I find that it's kind of unformed and aimless, like the Joaquin Phoenix character. And that part, those aspects of the film didn't necessarily work for me.
Well, can you be more specific about what the aimless part is? I mean, what was the section of the movie that felt aimless to you?
Well, that the cause was kind of ill-defined. That the ending didn't quite. I don't think it knew where it wanted to end. There was a sense in some places. There's sense in some places where the son says about Philip Seymour Hoffman, you know, he's making this up as he goes along. And there are places in The Master where I felt the same thing from Paul Thomas Anderson.
That's very true. I agree with that.
I feel that it all hangs together quite well. I don't, you know, I understand why everything's in there. I get the ending. I think that it makes sense that just with Freddie Quell's character that he would actually search he doesn't mind travel, so why not go to Britain? And I like the fact that let's forget about the last scene with Philip Seymour Hoffman, but the very final sequence, which deals with his meeting the British girl in the pub. That's beautiful to me. I love it. I love that. I think that there's something there between those two characters, even though we don't get to know very much. I think they're having fun, and they seem like a pretty good match. And I think that Freddie Quell at the very, very end of the movie has found his place, and I think that's why the very final shot that we see is him back on the beach with his sandcastle of what he really wanted. He just wanted a nice naked lady to be next to. And I think that's what it was all about.
But maybe his placement on the beach next to the naked lady, where he's staring longingly at the sandcastle of a naked lady, shows that he didn't find it with her. I mean, he's still adrift, you know?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And maybe his spewing of Dodd's kind of gospel as they're doing it at the end speaks to the fact that I didn't quite understand that. Is that saying that we all have to be a master of in our own way? Like we all have to be the dominator of a relationship? We all have to play that kind of role? I don't know. I didn't quite get that part.
Well, I think that it's also, let's just say this, it's also a movie that's going to reward more another viewing. I mean, I think everybody knows this when they come out of the movie that they know that something's there, but they don't quite know exactly what it is yet. And I think that's a good thing. I think it's good that not only do people know that, but also they want to figure it out. This is a movie that is going to be richly rewarding every time you see it from now on, I think. And I think the more familiar we get with it, I think the more we'll appreciate it. You know,
I think that's a distinct possibility, and I feel that if there is a comparison to Kubrick with this film, then that's it. But I mean, I'm at kind of a precipice now where I'm between: is Paul Thomas Anderson, did he just make something that's vague and not fully fleshed out because he failed to do so, or does it just seem vague because there's something underneath that we're missing upon a first viewing? I don't know which it is, but you're right. Future viewings will tell, I guess.
Yeah, that's great. That's wonderful, and of course, visually in every aspect, you have to. Oh yeah, you have to agree that, like, you know, the photography, the art direction, the sound, Jack Fisk's art direction, the Johnny Greenwood score,
right?
I mean, all that stuff is just brilliant.
It evokes the time period like just sublimely. I mean, oh my God, it's flawless. And I do think there's a lot more Johnny Greenwood score in this one. I don't think that it's just as distinctive as There Will Be Blood.
No, it's not. It's not. But
And I don't think the movie is as good as There Will Be Blood. I mean,
no, it's not.
You're always compared to your last movie, but every beat of Plainview's character, I was in that journey. I knew the end game. It felt authentic to me, his whole journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if you want the Daniel Plainview character, it's Amy Adams in the movie, kind of, because she's the one that gives the ultimatum to him in the scene in Britain. She's the one who's like that scene at the end of There Will Be Blood between him and his son. Mm-hmm. That's very reminiscent of that. But I was thinking, she takes on kind of a Lady Macbeth role. Yeah, she's a monster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's a monster in the movie. I mean, but I think the thing is that I think, he's sort of the Freddie Quell character at the end reminds me of Jack Nicholson at the end of Five Easy Pieces.
Right.
But also this movie, and There Will Be Blood, but this movie maybe more so. I think Paul Thomas Anderson really loved Wise Blood a lot. I think Wise Blood may be one of his all-time favorite movies. He might not admit it, but there's a lot of that in this movie and some of it in There Will Be Blood. But there's this whole thing with the charlatan.
Yeah.
I mean, he really is obsessed with that in these last two movies.
I walked out and I said, okay, The Master, my opinion is, there's no way The Master's going to, in terms of Oscar chances, there's no way The Master's going to win Best Picture. It will be nominated.
Yeah.
I think
it's not the Best Picture winner.
No, it's not.
And, I would give the award to Joaquin Phoenix, but my thought is, he's just so abrasive as a kind of a person that in terms of the politics and the perception of it, because that always plays a role. It shouldn't, but it does. I don't think that they'd give it to him, but I would think that he would have to be the front runner right now from what I have personally seen. That is an incredible performance.
Yeah.
That is one of those performances that is completely unpredictable. Mm-hmm. And almost unbearably uncomfortable to watch at times.
Right.
That scene where he gets thrown in jail with Lancaster Dodd.
God, yeah.
Oh my God, that scene.
the fight scene where he's taking the guy's photo. That confrontation scene. I mean,
right.
It's just it feels so in the moment. It feels so spontaneous, and I wonder how many takes they would do of scenes like that, because that must have been exhausting.
Yeah.
It looks like just a generally exhausting performance for Joaquin Phoenix to have even attempted, really. Both of those lead performances are extremely physical and in their own way.
And by the way, kudos to Paul Thomas Anderson, because that as to make that the lead in your film.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily a completely endearing character.
No, it's not.
So, and basically, if you have the mettle to sit through the movie in the first 10 minutes, and I could imagine a lot of older people going to see this movie and walking out at that point,
Right.
Yeah. There were times where I was looking at his performance and just him on screen, and it's rare to have this feeling of just like you're just watching this just great moment of acting, where you can almost picture like years later looking back at photos of this from this film and going, man, what a great movie this is, or whatever. I don't know. I liked it a whole lot more than maybe you guys did, because I just, it's very near the top of my list so far this year.
You're right. You're right about the best scene in the movie, though. I mean, that is a two-hander tour de force. That the conditioning scene between Philip Seymour Hoffman and Joaquin Phoenix.
Right. Oh yeah.
Isn't that scene amazing where it's all done in close-up, and in 70 millimeter you can actually like count each individual hair that's in Hoffman's mustache, and then Joaquin Phoenix's eyes just seem like they're just sunken in holes almost that go into nowhere.
Right. Yeah.
All that stuff is those visuals.
Yeah, that scene puts
even
you
just
through the ringer.
Visuals. Yeah,
that scene in it, and I was like, damn, that gets you, man.
Yeah, it does.